Pavers are a great addition to an outdoor area and you can lay them yourself, no worries. There are two different methods of laying pavers and they depend on the type of paver you're laying. Concrete pavers are generally laid on a sand bed, whilst natural stone pavers are best laid on a bed of mortar. In this video, I'm going to show you how to lay concrete pavers on a bed of sand. Firstly, you need to choose what type of paver you want to use and the pattern you want to lay them in. Then you can move on to designing your path. My path is 5 metres 645 millimetres long, 850 millimetres at one end and 1 metre and 52 millimetres at the other as it turns a corner. Divide your measurements by the dimensions of your pavers to work out how many pavers you need. 2 quick tips. Allow up to a 5 millimetre gap between each paver in your calculations and always order a few more in case any break. I'm also going to allow room for a timber border to secure my pavers in place. Now once you're happy with your design, time to start digging out. Now just before you hook into it, you might want to have your council plans on hand just to make sure you don't hit any power or plumbing underground. We'll be digging to a depth of 180 millimetres. The first layer is 100 millimetres of base course, which we'll add and compact in 2 lots of 50 millimetres. Then 30 millimetres of gap 7 or fines, and then a 50 millimetre space for our pavers, making up our 180 millimetres. Your final depth will be determined by the thickness of your pavers. If your pavers are butting up against your house, council regulations state they'll need to sit a minimum of 150 millimetres below your internal floor height. If you're laying a large patio area, the finished surface will also need to have a fall between 10 to 15 millimetres per metre to allow water to run off away from your house. Once you've worked out your requirements, you can mark out your area with a string line and start digging. Okay, I'm happy with the depth of my path. Now it's time to measure, cut and install my borders. Now I'll be using tannelised timber, that way it's not going to rot in the ground. Now a wee little tip for you, if you do want to paint or stain your borders, now's the time to do it. Lay your timber borders down using string lines along the inside to keep them parallel. Then drive down wooden pegs to keep the borders in place. Make sure you hammer them deep enough to sit below the depth of your paver. So in my case, I'll go deeper than 50 millimetres. Then fix the pegs to the borders using landscape screws. Next, you're ready to move on to adding your base course. Now, like any good job, it always starts off with a nice level foundation. So when you install your base course, just ensure you get that perfectly level. That way when you come to laying your pavers, everything's going to look fantastic when you finish. Remember, we're adding our 100 millimetres of base course in 2 lots of 50 millimetres, compacting between the 2 layers. Add your first 50 millimetres, rake it out flat, and then compact. You can hire a plate compactor from your local hire shop. Then repeat for your second layer. With 100 mils of gap 20 laid, we can move on to our 30 mils of gap 7, also called fines, before finally laying the pavers. What I've done is taken a straight edge, I've rebated it out 50 millimetres, the thickness of my paver, and that's just going to sit nice and neat on top of my garden edging. And I'll drag those gap 7 or fines backwards, leaving the exact amount needed, so that ensures that my paver sits flush with the outside garden edge. Now this is a really tiny little path, it's only 800 millimetres wide. If you're going to lay a large area, say a courtyard with all your pavers, wee little tip for you, lay some pipes down the same thickness as you want your fines to be. So in my case, 30 millimetres. And then spread your fines over top like I've done here, and take in a straight edge, pull your straight edge over top of your pipe like this, and that'll leave you exactly the thickness of your pipe. Once you've spread all that out, you'd simply take your pipes out, brush in a little bit over where the pipes are, and that is exactly 30 mil thick. All my fines are down, that's looking great. I'm just about to start laying my pavers. On the side of these pavers we have a little notch here. That's to allow a 3 millimetre gap for our pave lock to ensure that the pavers are locked in nice and tight. Lay your pavers against your string line or wooden border and use a rubber mallet to tap the pavers down, making sure they are flush with each other. If you need to cut pavers, hire a paver cutter, or you could use an angle grinder with a diamond tip blade. All my pavers are laid, they're looking great. So the next stage is putting my pave block in. Now what this does is help bonds all the pavers together, and a good thing about it also, it stops any ants or weeds coming through the cracks. Sprinkle small piles of sand along the joins and brush it in diagonally into each groove. Then sweep away any excess sand from the surface of your pavers before wetting it down. Use a fine mist setting on your hose, spraying upwards so that the water settles gently and pools on top. Leave the water to dry naturally and the jointing sand to harden and set everything in place. Right, that's how we lay concrete pavers, and it was easy as. If you'd like to check out how to lay natural stone pavers on a mortar bed, we've got a video that'll show you how to do that. Don't forget to subscribe to the Mitre 10 YouTube channel for more handy content, or click here to watch more now.